The only good snake is a dead one.
I'm sure we've all heard this phrase at one point or another, and maybe some of you have even used it. Now, this video is not to shame anyone with an actual phobia of snakes, also known as ophidiophobia, which is very fun to say, but it is to show you something much more terrifying, which is what happens when the phrase, "any good snake is a dead snake," becomes true. I'm John, this is Butts, and you're watching Tipping Scales. Since it's going to be necessary for me to use some words in this video that is not going to be YouTube algorithm friendly, if you could offset that cost a little bit by hitting the like, I would greatly appreciate that. Today's video is brought to you by Facebook. Not because they sponsor this video, but because it is an endless, toxic cesspool of both ignorance and inspiration. Now, most of the time when you see this phrase, "the only good snake is a dead snake," or whatever spelling or iteration of it is that you come across, like this fella who says they should be punchade. Must be French. Most of the time when you see this, it's connected to one of three profile pictures. A sweet old grandmother, some of whom are quite polite, like Betty, who simply asks that all snake videos be removed, and even says please. The next is a picture of an older man who tries his best to look like Sam Elliott, and even posts Sam Elliott inspirational quotes with a picture of Sam and a made-up quote about what it is to be a man. These are guys you would think would be fearless men. Their profile picture usually includes a motorcycle, a large truck, or a bunch of guns. They also take this opportunity to show their weapon of choice against these snakes in their comments, showing that these are unfortunately compensation pew-pews for peepees. I'm having a day. If you're wondering why I'm not blocking out names and faces on these comments, it's because these were posted in a public forum, and if you don't want to sound like a serial killer online, you probably shouldn't say things that a serial killer would say. The third picture associated with these "the only good snake is a dead snake" posts is this one. And this is the one I see the most. These are likely people whose grandchildren never finish setting up their account, or who believe that if they post their picture on Facebook, the government will then know what they look like. Wait until they find out about driver's licenses. Now, this may sound very ageist, but it is to demonstrate that the vast majority of these comments come from an older generation, which makes sense because this is a very old and outdated sentiment. There are, of course, a few younger people who are still parroting what's been handed down to them, but there has been an incredible shift in the acceptance of snakes in the last decade, and even in the last few years, especially in the last few years, where those who want to kill things that they can't understand are becoming a minority. Whether that's from natural causes or people becoming more educated, it's a very positive shift for our scaly natives. So now let's get into what the mentality of "the only good snake is a dead snake" would mean for us individually and as a species if all snakes were wiped off the face of the earth. It's a lot more terrifying than you might think. Common sense tells us that if snakes were eradicated, there would be a lot more mice and rats, which are a common food source of most snakes. But how many of us really understand what that would mean? In 2 weeks, one snake might eat anywhere between 2 and 4 rodents. For the sake of accuracy, let's just go with mice. Just mice. 2 mice can give birth to as many as 60 pups a year. Mice become sexually mature at 6 weeks. Going very conservatively on this, if only 30% of those mice are female, you're looking at over 5,000 mice descending from one pair of mice a year. 5,000. Which means that in 2 weeks' time, one snake is responsible for preventing the spread of 5,000 to 10,000 mice. One snake. According to the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, one medium-sized rat snake can eat up to 9 pounds of mice a year. That's 192 mice. Now, going back to our very conservative estimate of 30% of those being female, which would give us 57 mice out of the 192, that means in 1 year, one snake prevents the spread of 285,000 mice. It sounds crazy, but those are the actual numbers. So what happens when there are suddenly trillions more mice? Currently, all over the world, mice are responsible for millions of dollars in lost crops. Some places seeing as low as 5%, while others see as high as 30%. It makes sense that if our mice population exploded, so would the percentage of lost crops go up, which would drive produce prices through the roof. Livestock who depend heavily on things like hay, which would then also be destroyed and eaten by the mice, would become much more valuable, and the price of meat would skyrocket as well. Thousands of people would go hungry as our economy collapsed in the biggest inflation ever seen in the world. Mice also carry over 60 diseases that can be spread to humans and livestock. Meanwhile, snakes don't, but this is the trade we made, so let's keep going with it. If you thought COVID was a difficult time, now we have hospitals full of hantavirus, HPS, leptospirosis, and a whole bunch of other diseases that I can't even pronounce. But this time, being short-staffed isn't the only problem. Now we have rodents chewing on electrical wires that goes to test equipment, EKGs, life support, and all the technology a hospital relies on to function. This isn't limited to the commercial sector though. This is also happening in your house. Your pantry and walls are overrun. You can't eat the food in your house, you can't sleep in your own bed, and fires are starting everywhere.
A huge fire in St. Charles was likely started by rodents.
Investigators say the fire was sparked by a rat that chewed through electrical wiring.
I understand you think I'm probably being dramatic, but look at this report from Australia from 2 short years ago, a place with tons of snakes.
Millions of mice have infested Australia and they're everywhere. Houses, garages, water tanks, under the beds. Mice are also crawling into beds and biting people.
Imagine this. You open a cupboard and out jump some mice. You go to your kitchen and there are mice everywhere. Sounds like a horror movie or a nightmare? Welcome to Australia.
I don't sleep because I'm paranoid. You can hear them in your walls and your roof. Your social and emotional well-being is shot.
The mice went straight for the harvest. The wheat, the barley, they infested it all. They also attacked hotels, food marts and bakeries, childcare centres, and made no exception for old age homes. The mice are chewing crops, electrical wires, machines, even biting patients in hospitals.
Crazy, right? And that was caused by something as innocent and benign as good rainfalls and ideal breeding conditions. Now imagine that, but exponentially larger and all over the world. But John, I only kill venomous snakes to protect my family. Venomous snakes, what are they good for? Absolutely everything. Do any of you or have any of you gotten Lyme disease from a tick bite? I have, and it was absolutely horrible. They think they caught it early enough to get rid of it, but that's neither here nor there. Did you know, according to a study from the USDA, timber rattlesnakes specifically consume anywhere between 2,500 and 4,500 ticks per year? I like the sound of that. What about cancer, heart disease, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, arthritis? We all know at least one person who has received treatment for those things, if not ourselves. Those treatments, as well as treatments for many other diseases, contain, you guessed it, snake venom. Because of its unique enzyme, peptide, and protein makeup, which can be composed of up to 100 different components depending on the species, snake venom is at the cutting edge of shaping medical advancement. It's used in preventing heart attacks and strokes, inhibiting cancer growth, and in many other medical applications. For the full breakdown on that, check out the link in the description. I always post my sources down there if you're interested in learning more about them. So, is the only good snake a dead snake? Obviously not, unless you're just someone who wants to watch the world burn.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
And the logic of wanting all snakes dead because you want to protect your family kind of goes out the window when you break it all down like this and realize what kind of a future you would actually be leaving to your family. Right? Next week we have a fun episode. It is a Halloween special and a follow-up to the Joe Exotic and Chandler Bite video that I put out a couple of weeks ago. It is a special, fabulous episode that you don't want to miss. If you're new here or if you've been here a whole bunch of times and haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing. My returning viewer statistics show that there are 600 people who keep coming back who are not subscribed. So if you're one of those people, I would really appreciate it. Also remember to hit that like. Thank you guys so much for watching. And thank you so much to the people who reached out and had kind things to say over the Sweet Pea situation. It meant so much to me, and I really love and appreciate you guys. We have a great community here, and I'm very grateful for it, and for you specifically. That really meant the world to me, for real. So remember to be kind to yourselves and each other, and I will as well. Love you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.